Hey guys, Mutantcowboy here. If you saw my last video, you know I went over briefly the basics of skill attributes and skill talents. Now in this one, I'm going to be covering skill tiers. Alright, so skill tiers, obviously it's the main thing. You probably would have thought that I would have covered it first, but I honestly think that skill tiers is a little bit more complicated than just the plug and play of the talents and the attributes. The reason I say this is because depending on the skill that you're using, you will get different benefits from your skill tier. Now, obviously, on the surface, that's pretty simple. If you use something like a shock trap, obviously you're going to get more traps or more shock radius, whatever. And if you use something like the explosive seeker mine, you're going to get damage and radius. But the problem comes in when you start comparing different skills to each other. For example, if you take the sticky bomb versus the explosive seeker mine. Initially, the explosive seeker mine is actually the better skill, especially when you have 0 skill tier. Because the starting point for the seeker is, it does a good amount of explosive damage, and it has an alright cooldown. Now if you look at the sticky bomb, it has a much higher cooldown and a slightly higher amount of damage. But what happens is, with the skill tier of the sticky bomb, you end up getting skill haste. The seeker mine does not have skill haste. So if you were to compare the two side by side, the more tiers that you have just makes it so that you get your sticky bomb that much faster compared to your seeker mine. And another skill that this example can basically be seen in is the Reinforcer Chem Launcher or the Fixer Drone. The only thing you get when you invest in the Fixer Drone is the skill health and the armor repair. When you invest in the Reinforcer Chem Launcher, you get radius, you get ammo, and you get skill repair. What this means is basically that there are some skills that when you have a high skill tier are really worth that investment, okay? You want to have those skills because you put this much investment into it. But there's other skills that don't really have that great of a return. And you'd probably want to use these ones over other ones that basically grow more powerful as they get skill tier. Some of them start off strong but don't increase as fast. Others start off a little bit weaker but increase a lot more. Now that's not to say that they're useless or that you should never use them or you shouldn't try them out, but there's certain skills that you probably wouldn't want to use as a tier 6 user. The pulse comes to mind. Unless you specialize into it specifically to get pulse damage, it's almost a worthless skill. Now on that same note, you have other skills that are really highly dependent on status effects to do their actual work. For example, if you look at the Airburst Seeker, you get a 300% increase to your burn duration. But other skills, if you're trying to go for a status effect, like looking at the Hive or even the Explosive Seeker, they don't get a bonus to their actual status effect damage or status effect duration from the skill tier. So if you want to actually add more status effect duration or status effect damage type stuff to those skills, you're going to need to actually use your attributes to do it. You're going to need to invest in the status effect attribute. Now the benefit of that is if you're trying to actually go for some sort of crowd control type abilities and you don't actually care that much about your skills doing massive amounts of damage or lasting for minutes on end or having an insane amount of health, what you can do is just ignore skill tier altogether. And then you can basically just pick the pieces that you want from your attributes. So, if you were a gun damage build, well, you don't have to give up your gun damage. You can basically just invest all 6 slots into 15% weapon damage, and then just use 6 of your 12 attributes to do status effects. Or you could do 6 of your 12 attributes to do, skill repair if you want to repair skills. But what this also means is that if you really want to be a serious skill build, you're going to need to actually customize your build to allow you to use the best stats and the best attributes for each skill. So for example, you'd want to use the assault turret and the striker drone because they do relatively the exact same thing. Another good combination could be the banshee pulse and the blinder firefly because they are both basically just devoted to getting out a status effect. So you can basically spec into status effects and spec into even, skill haste just to get them back quicker if that's what you wanted to do. You wouldn't really need the skill tier behind it. But I will eventually get into skill stacking and basically kind of making suggestions for what skills actually complement each other. And I will talk about, better ways to actually optimize your gear fully just so you can get the most out of each skill. But that'll do it for me. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.